Prince William, King Charles, and Kate Middleton all make heartfelt remarks following the Yom Kippur synagogue attack. Following the news of a deadly attack outside a synagogue in the United Kingdom on Yom Kippur, Kate Middleton, Prince William, and King Charles all spoke out. The 76-year-old king made the announcement via a spokeswoman for Buckingham Palace on October 2nd. The letter was given by the king in response to the attack outside Manchester, England's Heaton Park Hebrew congregation synagogue earlier on Thursday. King Charles said to his wife, Queen Camilla, "My wife and I have been terribly horrified and saddened to read of the horrific incident in Manchester, especially on such a major day for the Jewish community. We deeply appreciate the prompt actions of the emergency services, and our thoughts and prayers are with all those touched by this horrible catastrophe," the monarch added. The 43-year-old Prince and Princess of Wales also issued a statement regarding the tragedy. "The families and victims of the horrific incident at Heaton Park Synagogue are in our prayers. This tragedy is all the more terrible because it happened on Yom Kippur, the Jewish calendar's holiest day." In a statement signed with their initials W and C for William and Catherine, they stated, "We are thinking of the entire community as well as the emergency responders that attended this awful occurrence." The holiest Jewish holiday of the year is Yom Kippur, which falls on the 10th and last day of the high holidays. When the incident at Heaton Park Hebrew congregation synagogue occurred, many people were worshiping there, according to the most recent statement from the Greater Manchester Police GMP. In the first press release, the authorities said that one guy had been stabbed and that they had been called to the synagogue after a witness spotted a car being driven towards members of the public. Additional public reports claimed that a security guard had been. Paramedics arrived at 9:41 a.m. after the GMP declared Plato, defined by the BBC as emergency services response to large-scale situations, including marauding terrorist attacks, and a major incident at 9:37. 2 persons have died as a result of a significant incident, according to the most recent police statement. According to the news statement, GMP firearms officers shot a third party, who was thought to be the perpetrator, and the person is thought to be dead. Since then, the synagogue has been evacuated, and 3 other members of the public are in critical. The tragic attack at Heaton Park Hebrew congregation synagogue in Manchester on Yom Kippur stands as a profoundly disturbing moment in contemporary British history, not merely because of the immediate human cost, but because of its symbolic violation of religious sanctity, social cohesion, and communal trust. The event, occurring on one of the most sacred days of the Jewish calendar, underscores the vulnerability of religious and minority communities, even within societies recognized globally for their democratic institutions, rule of law, and commitment to human rights. Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, is a time deeply rooted in reflection, repentance, and spiritual renewal. An act of violence at this specific temporal and spiritual juncture is therefore more than a physical assault. It is an attack on the collective conscience, faith, and cultural continuity of a historically resilient community. The fatalities, injuries, and psychological trauma resulting from this incident serve as grim reminders that religious observance, irrespective of centuries of tradition and societal protections, does not guarantee immunity from hatred and violence. The immediacy and brutality of the attack, as indicated by reports of stabbings and vehicular aggression, combined with the rapid deployment of Plato protocols by the Greater Manchester Police, highlight both the dangerous reality of targeted violence and the essential nature of responsive, well-trained emergency services. The neutralization of the suspected perpetrator, while preventing further immediate loss, cannot erase the profound societal scars left by the incident, nor can it alleviate the grief experienced by victims, families, and the wider Jewish community. In the wake of such a deeply unsettling event, the responses issued by King Charles III, Queen Camilla, Prince William, and Catherine, Princess of Wales, carry extraordinary significance. While at first glance these statements may appear ceremonial or symbolic, their importance lies in the multi-layered messages they convey. King Charles's expression of horror and sorrow, paired with the acknowledgement of Queen Camilla's shared grief, situates the royal family as both empathetic witnesses and moral voices. Their words transcend the boundaries of mere condolence, signaling a broader ethical stance against violence, hatred, and the desecration of sacred space. By explicitly recognizing the sanctity of Yom Kippur and particular vulnerability of the Jewish community on this day, the monarch underscores the layered gravity of the incident. Prince William and Catherine through their concise but heartfelt statement, further amplify the moral resonance of the royal position, demonstrating solidarity with victims, families, the Jewish community, and emergency responders who risk their lives to mitigate further harm. The simplicity of the message, signed with their initials W and C, conveys personal engagement, empathy, and a sense of authentic concern that resonates deeply with the public. From a historical perspective, the royal family's engagement with such tragedies reflects a long-standing tradition of symbolic leadership during times of societal trauma. The British monarchy, particularly in the modern era, has evolved into an institution that functions not merely as a ceremonial authority, but also as a moral and ethical guide. Statements of empathy and solidarity, particularly when issued in response to acts of violence against religious or minority communities, serve to reaffirm shared societal values and collective norms. In the context of the Manchester Synagogue attack, the royal communications function as both a public acknowledgement of loss and a reinforcement of societal condemnation of hate-driven violence. They serve to remind the nation that attacks on one community are affronts to the collective moral fabric and social cohesion of the entire country. In doing so, they perform a critical role in shaping public perception, offering both consolation and ethical guidance at a time when emotions run high and societal tensions are vulnerable to escalation. The societal implications of the incident are complex and multifaceted. Attacks on places of worship strike at the core of communal identity, trust, and the perception of safety. Religious spaces such as synagogues are not merely physical structures. They represent historical continuity, spiritual resilience, and collective cultural memory. The violation of such a space on Yom Kippur magnifies the sense of vulnerability experienced by the Jewish community, contributing to collective trauma and social anxiety. The royal family statements, by explicitly acknowledging both the sacredness of the day and the humanity of those affected, play a critical role in mitigating feelings of isolation and abandonment among community members. This acknowledgement provides a form of symbolic reassurance, signaling that societal leadership recognizes the depth of harm inflicted and stands firmly in solidarity with those targeted. Security considerations emerge as another crucial dimension of analysis. The Manchester Synagogue attack illustrates the ongoing challenges associated with protecting religious and minority communities in urban environments. While the rapid response by emergency services demonstrates preparedness and operational effectiveness, the very occurrence of the attack points to persistent vulnerabilities in security infrastructure. The incident underscores a need for comprehensive protective strategies that encompass preventive intelligence, community engagement, situational awareness, and rapid tactical response. The royal statements, by highlighting the actions of emergency responders, also serve to publicly validate the efforts of law enforcement and medical personnel, reinforcing societal recognition of their critical role in safeguarding life and maintaining public order. This, in turn, can have cascading effects on public policy, community trust, and resource allocation, emphasizing the importance of adequately equipping agencies responsible for protecting vulnerable populations. Psychologically, the ramifications of such targeted violence are profound. Survivors, family members, and the wider Jewish community face not only grief and loss, but also heightened fear, anxiety, and a potential erosion of trust in public safety systems. The royal family's empathetic communications function as a form of psychological support, offering validation, comfort, and moral recognition. Research in trauma and social psychology indicates that symbolic support from respected institutions and figures can significantly aid communal recovery, fostering resilience, collective coping, and a sense of shared moral responsibility. In this case, the acknowledgement from King Charles, Prince William, and Catherine provides not only emotional solace, but also an ethical anchor, affirming that acts of violence are morally unacceptable and that the victim's suffering is recognized and shared by the broader society. Interfaith and multicultural considerations further deepen the significance of the royal responses. Britain is characterized by its religious diversity and complex social fabric, and maintaining harmony among various communities requires deliberate and sustained engagement. Attacks on minority religious communities, particularly during sacred observances, threaten to erode trust, inflame social tensions, and create divisive narratives. By explicitly referencing the religious and spiritual dimensions of the incident, the royal family demonstrates an acute awareness of these sensitivities. Their statements affirm the societal principle that violence against any religious community is a concern for all, thereby fostering a culture of collective responsibility, respect, and mutual understanding. Such interventions are not merely symbolic, but actively contribute to social cohesion, reducing the risk of intercommunal tension, and reinforcing a national ethos of inclusivity and tolerance. Media framing of the royal response also amplifies its impact. In the digital age where information dissemination is instantaneous and often fragmented, authoritative and empathetic voices play a critical role in shaping public discourse. The media's coverage of royal statements situates them as moral interpreters, offering a lens through which the public can process complex emotions of grief, fear, and outrage. By highlighting the royal acknowledgement alongside factual reporting of the incident, the media creates a composite narrative that merges ethical reflection with empirical understanding. This dual framing enhances public comprehension, encourages civic engagement, and fosters an environment where societal values of compassion, tolerance, and ethical responsibility are foreground. The international dimension of the royal statements cannot be understated. Britain's monarchy occupies a position of global symbolic significance, and expressions of solidarity with targeted communities resonate beyond national borders. By issuing empathetic responses to the Manchester Synagogue attack, the royal family reinforces the UK's reputation as a nation committed to religious freedom, human rights, and moral accountability. Such statements carry soft power implications, projecting a vision of British society as one that stands unequivocally against hate-driven violence and in defense of vulnerable communities. This contributes to international diplomatic goodwill, enhances the moral credibility of the nation, and serves as a model for global leadership in times of crisis. Furthermore, the royal responses intersect with broader societal conversations on ethics, morality, and civic responsibility. In modern democratic societies, the role of symbolic leadership extends beyond ceremonial presence. It encompasses the articulation of societal values, moral guidance, and ethical reassurance. In the context of the Manchester attack, the monarchy's statements provide a framework through which citizens can interpret the events, understand the ethical stakes, and orient their responses in alignment with values of empathy, solidarity, and justice. The articulation of grief, horror, and moral condemnation serves to crystallize social norms, reinforcing the societal imperative to reject violence, uphold tolerance, and actively support vulnerable communities. The attack and the royal response also illuminate the enduring relevance of symbolic acts in communal healing and social resilience. While structural interventions, law enforcement, medical response, and policy measures address immediate threats, symbolic acts of acknowledgement, empathy, and moral guidance address the psychological, cultural, and ethical dimensions of trauma. The royal family statements function as public rituals of recognition, reinforcing collective memory, communal identity, and societal solidarity. They provide a moral narrative that complements practical measures, shaping both individual and collective processes of mourning, reflection, and resilience. Analyzing the Manchester Synagogue attack and the subsequent royal responses through a multidimensional lens reveals several enduring lessons for contemporary society. Firstly, it underscores a persistent need for vigilance, security, and proactive measures to protect vulnerable communities, particularly religious minorities. Secondly, it highlights the moral and ethical responsibility of leaders, symbolic or political, to provide empathetic guidance, reassurance, and public acknowledgement in times of crisis. Thirdly, it reinforces the importance of media framing in shaping public understanding, emphasizing the integration of factual reporting with ethical reflection to promote societal cohesion and moral clarity. Fourthly, the incident illustrates the necessity of interfaith awareness, cultural sensitivity, and the cultivation of a shared moral and ethical framework that transcends individual communities and reinforces national solidarity. Fifthly, it demonstrates the psychological power of symbolic support, showing that acknowledgement, empathy, and moral affirmation from respected institutions significantly contribute to communal resilience, recovery, and long-term cohesion. In conclusion, the Manchester Synagogue attack on Yom Kippur represents a convergence of human tragedy, moral challenge, and societal reflection. It is a moment that challenges the fabric of communal trust, tests the resilience of religious and minority communities, and demands ethical leadership that transcends procedural and institutional responses. The royal family, through the statements of King Charles III, Queen Camilla, Prince William, and Catherine, Princess of Wales, fulfills his role with remarkable clarity and empathy. By acknowledging the sanctity of the occasion, expressing horror at the violence, extending compassion to victims and families, and recognizing the valor of emergency responders, they offer both moral guidance and symbolic reassurance. Their intervention reinforces social cohesion, fosters interfaith solidarity, and provides a template for ethical leadership in the face of modern threats to societal harmony. The lessons of this tragic incident, amplified by the moral and symbolic weight of the royal response, resonate far beyond Manchester, serving as a poignant reminder of the enduring necessity to protect human life, uphold communal sanctity, resist hate-driven violence, and cultivate a society rooted in empathy, justice, and collective moral responsibility. The Manchester Synagogue attack, while a moment of profound sorrow, also becomes a lens in which the ethical, psychological, and social imperatives of contemporary society are illuminated, demonstrating the enduring importance of empathy, symbolic leadership, and collective action in navigating complexities and challenges of a world in which violence, fear, and intolerance continue to pose existential threats to the principles of community, faith, and human dignity.